So could you talk a little bit more about how you made that transition from working at a for-profit company to now being the CEO of the wonderful nonprofit Planet Women?
Sure. It's not by much design, I will admit. I did not sit down and say, by the year 2020, I want to be a CEO. I didn't really think about it in that way, although there are people who are very ambitious and want to get a degree and want to get become an attorney and then become a partner by the time they're 35 or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that either. I just knew that there were lots of things I was interested in that I wanted to check off my list by the time I die, sort of thing. And I felt like I had a lot of time to do that. Hopefully, knock on wood, I do. But the for-profit world was where I thought I wanted to be. I wanted to be a really great reporter. I wanted to be a trusted writer with a beat, with a press badge, with the ability to talk to anyone on Capitol Hill. And right away, I got that press badge and I could go anywhere in Washington, D.C. I could talk to any elected official. I could talk to a Supreme Court justice. I could talk to, it's incredible. Press badge really was the ticket to a whole new world. It was very exciting, but it just wasn't fulfilling because being a reporter is not really about writing or the craft of English as much as it's about getting information in a timely way and kind of being a pest about it. You have to call people a lot. You have to really hound them. So I got out of that and went to the nonprofit sector and became a grant writer for an animal shelter here in San Francisco called the San Francisco SPCA. It was at that time one of the few no-kill shelters in the United States that really wanted to reduce the homeless population of dogs and cats. I love animals, grew up with dogs and cats my whole life. So I thought, oh my gosh, this is the greatest job ever, writing, which I like to do, for dogs and cats, getting money for dogs and cats. And indeed, it ended up being the right choice because once I was in the nonprofit sector, I was surrounded by people who were on a mission to change society or to make things better for animals in the city of San Francisco. And yet, you started to realize that even in the nonprofit sector, there's stress, there's burnout, there's conflict, there's politics. So don't be under any kind of misguided notion that just because it's not a high performing Fortune 500 company that it's any less stressful. In fact, it can be even more stressful. Think about nonprofit hospitals that cure cancer in children or that treat people who are terminally ill. So it can be stressful, but the stress in my mind is balanced by the purpose and the alignment with my values. I like to serve people. I like to help animals. I like to be part of the conversation about how do we make the world a better place. So dogs and cats were great, and I did that for a few years. And then I was really thinking about more animals, like wild animals. And there was an opportunity to work at the San Francisco Zoological Society as a corporate grant writer and a corporate fundraiser. I jumped at it and I loved it. I loved my colleagues. The zoo is a super fun environment, as you can imagine. You're working with animal keepers who are like experts, really amazing veterinarians who are doing groundbreaking research on how to cure disease in these animals, and you're working with the public. And then I wanted to work with animals that are outside in the wild that need help, where their habitats are being destroyed or where their health is compromised. So I needed to find a way to get out of the zoo world and into conservation. Wasn't sure how to do it, but I had heard there was a job opening at the Nature Conservancy. I had met someone who worked there. I asked her, would she help tell me more about conservation? And luckily, it's always great when someone agrees to help you out and do a phone call, and she did. And I eventually got a job in the Nature Conservancy's Boston office, where I started my career in what we call environmental conservation. And I was just learning like crazy, learning about land acquisition, learning about strategies for climate mitigation, learning about how you work with government agencies and other nonprofits. And again, I felt, these are my people, this is my issue, I love it here. Really smart, motivated, bright, and intelligent people. From there, I went to Conservation International, which is a very close cousin to the Nature Conservancy, founded by one of the people who came from the Nature Conservancy. And so again, felt like this is this is a true family for me. And we worked in more than 33 countries at that point, and I had the opportunity to travel to Kenya with a women's group. I had the opportunity to go to the Amazon and to raise money for all kinds of projects that I deeply believed in. And I was starting to feel ready to maybe extend my own wings a little bit. And I thought I might want to be an executive director or maybe a consultant, own my own business. I wasn't sure exactly what would happen. And the opportunity came to me almost in a gift package with my co-founder for Planet Women, Karen Poyani. And Karen at that point thought it was time for women to start leading more in conservation, to balance the equation so that we could have more inclusion, more diverse leaders at the helm who were ready to tackle these very complex problems. And this was right when the issues around George Floyd's murder and Ahmaud Arbery's murder and Breonna Taylor's murder were all in the news, and everyone was issuing, every nonprofit was issuing a Black Lives Matter statement. And so as we were forming Planet Women, we thought, this is great. It seems very timely that everyone's talking about race and intersectionality and feminism and oppression and decolonization. But I'm not sure the conservation community knows how to do those things, because I, for one, didn't. And I knew a lot of my colleagues weren't skilled or practiced or had degrees in those areas. And so Planet Women really came together as a result of a deep desire to heal these traumas and to also do conservation in a more compassionate, softer in some ways, less competitive, less patriarchal, less all white men running it all the time. And I say that with a lot of love for my white male colleagues, but that's who's running most of the really big NGOs and the really big Fortune 500 companies as well. So we need more women and women of color in the C-suite and in our organizations and agencies to make these differences, I believe. And if we can balance these teams, in the end, I think all the solutions we come up with will be far more durable. And indeed, I think they're the only way that they will endure, is if there is a balance of teams who are leading these efforts and benefiting from them as well.
How do you get into fundraising? And isn't it hard to ask for money?
Fundraising is an interesting profession that a lot of people are involved in the United States. And yet when you're a student, it's almost opaque or even invisible in some ways. So I thought fundraising was like the Girl Scouts and raising money with cookies or magazine sales when I was a student and those kinds of things. And indeed, that is one way to fundraise. But development, advancement, fundraising, they're all interchangeable, is a profession. There, you can get advanced degrees actually in those areas, in nonprofit management and fundraising and philanthropy at some very big universities here in the United States. Not required, but great if that's your passion. And I think I entered fundraising almost by accident because I wanted to help animals, and I became a grant writer, which is actually a fundraiser, someone who writes proposals to foundations or individuals or corporations asking them to philanthropically support your initiative. That's fundraising. I asked for money through the proposal. I didn't actually call and say, "Hi, Gates Foundation, would you be interested in contributing?" But it's through a formal process. So it's actually not that intimidating because you're just going through a process, almost like applying for college. Yes, you have to write something good and you want to make a good case, but you're being judged on a number of values and criteria. So grant writer is a great way to become a fundraiser without asking for someone in person for a bunch of money. And then as you progress, you get more comfortable. And I still get very nervous when I ask for money. I still feel a little bit of self-doubt, like, is this person really gonna want to talk to me about this? Or is this really interesting to them? Or am I begging? You are never begging, because you're actually trying to unite a philanthropist's interest and passion in your topic with an opportunity. So in a way, you're providing a service. And so if I think of it that way, that I'm a valuable part of their lives even. Like without me, they wouldn't have a way to perhaps help fund dozens of women's projects all over the world. Maybe they could in other ways, right? I mean, they could do their own research. They could maybe find another charity. There's a lot of great charities out there. But if they talk to me, it's quicker and I can help them achieve their philanthropic vision. So it's an interesting career full of fascinating people, and you can be a fundraiser in all kinds of different charities, right? Because if you're passionate about dogs and cats, there are a lot of animal shelters that need your help. If you're passionate about diabetes research, there are a lot of great research institutions across the United States. So there's thousands of topic areas. There are 22,000 nonprofits in California alone. So you can imagine this is a huge part of the workforce of the United States. So I highly recommend fundraising as a career. It pays very well, by the way, if that's of interest to you. Didn't matter to me so much when I was starting out. I just love dogs and cats. So I was very motivated by fur, I guess you could say.